Poppy Playtime just announced the brand new trailer for Project Playtime is dropping tomorrow, while also reviewing a new ARG with footage of the long-awaited Jack-in-the-Box toy in action. So, as I'm sure you guys know, these past few weeks, there's been a Poppy Playtime ARG going on, where the developers have cryptically told a story about a man named Rowan Stoll, who in hidden videos throughout the ARG, started off recording a video saying he saw what he thought were nanny cams hidden inside of Huggy Wuggy's eyes being used to watch children inside of the factory. And then in a second found footage video, we could see Rowan instead apologizing for everything he said previously, claiming it was all a misunderstanding and that he didn't mean a thing he said. Followed then by a third and final clip of Rowan Stoll fearfully telling us that he thought Playtime Co was going to kill him. And so before they could find him, he said he was going to leak all of their hidden information through his own computer, which brings us to the original letter that I received that initially started the ARG, giving us the original IP address to access all the files we've been talking about for weeks now. Anyway, as I'm sure you guys know, throughout this ARG, many different random Twitter accounts popped up, giving us more cryptic clues to solve different puzzles throughout the ARG, with 5 accounts in particular activating. 1 named Playtime Co, 3 named Stella Graber, Eddie Ritterman, and Leith Pierre, which were all privated, and 1 more of Rowan Stoll himself. Anyway, we'll talk about these Twitter accounts again later on, but before talking about this, just the other day, Mob Games announced to us that Project Playtime is going to be getting an official cinematic trailer releasing literally tomorrow. And in the promotional image, right out of the gate, we could see this Jack-in-the-Box toy who in our last video we discovered was named Boxy Boo through other screenshots in the ARG. And people were also quick to point out that in the top middle, there was this weird cryptic flower with an eye looking directly at the camera. Now, many people theorized about what this could mean, but it didn't really tell us much. However, yesterday, to all of our surprises, something happened with all the Twitter accounts that I just mentioned, because all of their banners and profile pictures were suddenly changed to this exact flower image from the promotional photo, with the words "I see you" replacing all of their names and bios as well. While doing this, the 3 previously mentioned privated accounts, Stella, Leith, and Eddie, would randomly go on private, and at the same time, all accounts would post this exact same photo of this eyeball flower creature, whatever it may be. Now, what's interesting is when all these tweets went public, the original ARG files from all of my previous videos would suddenly go down, and we actually lost access to the server entirely, meaning the old files can no longer be accessed for whatever reason. But that wouldn't mean that the ARG is over. In fact, instead it means that they've just started a brand new one. The Poppy Playtime ARG 2, kind of. And here's what I mean. So with the original IP address given on the very first letter no longer connecting to the old server, it was theorized that potentially a new username and password could allow us to access an entirely new set of files. And it wouldn't take long for people to realize that if we look at all the profile pictures on these Twitter accounts, inside of them were different hidden letters. In fact, all 5 of the Twitter accounts had separate letter combinations inside of them. However, to solve this puzzle, all you would actually need to do is take all 5 of the profile pictures and just overlay them on top of each other. Because if we do this, all the letters will combine themselves to create a sentence that says, "Innovation is key," with it also saying at the top Playfair and a bunch of random algorithm mumbo jumbo. Anyway, for now we can put this image to the side because we'll use it later, but next we need to look at all of the new Twitter banners, because these banners also have different letters popping up on each of the single accounts. And if we do the exact same thing that we did with the profile pictures and overlay all the banners on top of each other, this time it reveals a random letter combination of OVHIPKNABALZQZ, which obviously is just a bunch of random gibberish. However, it was quickly pointed out that this string of letters seems to be an encrypted phrase, meaning it was a set of random letters that could be decoded into actual words. And speaking of encryption, if we look back at our first image, the very top says Playfair, which is actually a type of cipher, which, like I just said, is a way of encrypting messages and letters. Now, I'm not going to explain how or what a Playfair Cipher is, but to entirely oversimplify it, if you have an encrypted phrase like the one that we have here from the banners, and then we have an encryption key, it can be decoded using sites on the web to decrypt into actual comprehensible words. But while we have this decrypted phrase, where were we going to find an encryption key? Well, like we discussed, if we combine all the profile pictures together, they create the hidden message at the bottom that says "Innovation is key." So if we take that very literally, they're trying to tell us that the encryption key is the word innovation. So naturally, if we then put the word innovation as the encryption key, it would actually successfully decode this random gibberish phrase into the words "No Forgiveness X." X. And as a side note, we can disregard the X since it was only put there as a bonus letter that didn't really decode properly. But basically, that gives us the words no forgiveness, which we can assume is the username to the new server, since if you weren't following along, most usernames across the entire ARG were in English, while most passwords were in Latin, which we'll touch on in a minute. But with that being said, now that we have a potential username, what could the password be? Well, the third thing on these Twitter accounts that we're yet to touch on was the post that all the accounts tweeted as well. Because as you could guess, while all 5 of these tweets look incredibly similar, at the very bottom we could see what appears to be a bunch of assorted mini dash symbols, which people were quick to point out were actually letters in Morse code, a language of different signals that can be roughly translated into actual English words. And as you may have guessed, if you once again combine all 5 of these images across the 5 Twitter accounts once again, at the bottom we could see a completed string of Morse code that translates into the Latin words caro est in aeternum, which roughly translates to the flesh is forever in English. Anyway, if we put underscores to substitute the spaces in these words, which we also needed to do in the username if you didn't know, this would give us the potential username and password. So naturally, if we enter both no forgiveness and this random Latin phrase into the server connecting software, we would actually successfully connect to a brand new server, giving us one more file that just is labeled "This is what happens" in all caps. Now, inside of the file, there are 2 MP4s, one called SEC05 and another called SEC06. And conveniently enough, neither of these are password locked, so upon opening them, we get ourselves 2 brand new clips inside of the factory. The first one, SEC5, is rather meaningless. We see an unnamed employee who was later confirmed by the devs to be Rowan Stoll, the guy from the original tapes, walking downstairs to seemingly investigate something. There isn't much to it, however, the second clip, SEC6, is where things get interesting. We see what appears to be a follow-up of Rowan Stoll entering a room that at the end of it has Boxy Boo itself, the same Jack-in-the-Box toy we have been seeing all over this ARG. Anyway, as Rowan goes to inspect this toy, Boxy Boo jump attacks him, grabs Rowan with his hands, and drags him inside of the box to never be seen again. So yeah, Rowan Stoll is officially confirmed to be dead. But what does this mean for the Poppy Playtime ARG? Well, it means a few things. First, it marks what appears to be the end of Rowan Stoll's story. Like we said before, throughout the first part of the ARG, we could see what happens to Rowan, as at first he seems to show his loyalty to the company by revealing something was going wrong with Huggy Wuggy. However, for whatever reason, Rowan was never supposed to find this information out, as afterwards he recorded a clearly forced apology to the camera in the second clip, before then suddenly in the third clip being scared for his own life before leaking the ARG we have been solving for the past few weeks now. And clearly these fears for his life were somehow justified, as in the coming days he was taken down, torn apart, and consumed into the factory itself, with the file name in the second ARG even telling us this is what happens. More specifically, trying to tell us that this is what happens when you try to talk about the secrets inside of the factory. But now that Rowan Stoll is dead, the second thing this brings up in regards to the ARG is questions. And I mean a lot of questions. Of course, I'm assuming we'll learn a lot more about whatever this Boxy Boo creature is in tomorrow's trailer, which I cannot wait for. But more importantly, what happened to all the other employees and what happened to the factory after this letter was sent? Because the fact that I and other content creators received this letter from Rowan Stoll himself subliminally tells us that he was successful at sending out this letter and leaking all the dark secrets about the factory. So what exactly did Playtime Co do about this leak? Well, as of right now, we don't know. All we do know is that just a few years later, the factory would be infiltrated by the military for an unknown reason, just to find out that all of the employees in the factory were not dead, but they rather disappeared, which is a really interesting detail because we can actually see in Rowan Stoll's death clip that he was not murdered, but consumed, potentially telling us that over time the employees may have become prey to the machines that they originally created. And this story also tells us that while most employees were entirely unaware of the experimentation going on in Playtime Co, those who did, like Rowan Stoll, were quickly exterminated. And as much as it sucks to say this isn't even the first time we've seen an employee themselves saying they had unintentionally discovered one of the experiments, because Jacksepticeye's own character Marcus had also said he discovered the mysterious experiment PJ Pugapillar roaming around in a VHS tape found in Chapter 2, recorded right around the same time as Rowan Stoll's. So I'm not trying to jump to conclusions, but I think we can reasonably assume what happened to Marcus in the following months as well. But hey, while we can only sit here and theorize, in 24 hours or even less depending on when you're watching this, we will finally know the truth about Project Playtime. Make sure to show the Twitter user Mirko some love because they were the ones who actually told me how to do this ARG, because as you could guess, it took a while to understand all of this. Their link will be in the description. Subscribe and peace.